Today I'm making a sourdough pie crust. I thought I would bring you guys along for the ride. So let's get going. First of all, we're going to take 1 stick or 1/2 cup of butter. I am going to go ahead and cut this into chunks. This will make it a little bit easier to cut up in the pie crust. And I'm just going to set this aside. And now into my bowl, I am going to measure 150 grams of flour, 180, pardon me. 120 grams of flour is a cup. This is all-purpose flour. And I want 1.5 cups. So if you don't have a scale, just use 1.5 cups. It's just a little bit more exact when you use a scale, but not necessary. It's here, so I'm using it. That's good enough, 181. Next, I'm going to put in 1/8 teaspoon of salt. Now my butter should have about 1/8 teaspoon of salt in there, and I want about 1/4. You don't have to do salt at all, or if you do unsalted, you can double this. Just plain table salt. I probably got a little bit more than that because some spilled out, but I like salt, so no harm, no foul on that for me. But do whatever you like with the salt. It's just there for flavor. Then I'm going to take my pastry cutter that I'm going to use to cut the butter in, and I'm just going to give that a good mix to get the salt mixed in. And now I'm going to put 50 grams of my sourdough discard in here. Need to take about 20 grams of that out. Now this is for a 1-crust pie. So if you want a 2-crust pie, I would just double this. There we go, 233, that is close enough. I'm looking at the scale upside down, and that's what's throwing me off a little bit. And now I'm gonna add that butter back in. And I do it right on the butter wrapper for that very reason. It's so much easier to get it in and out. Little stray piece. Now I'm going to get rid of that scale, and I'm going to use that pastry cutter. I'm going to cut all of this in until it's fine crumbs. I'm just kind of pushing, twisting a little bit just to cut up those little bits of butter and of starter. Little elbow grease here. I've done this in the food processor, but I found out that my crust doesn't turn out quite as flaky. There, that's looking pretty good. Just give it a few more smooshes here. And now I'm going to take ice water, and I'm just going to add a little bit at a time until this just holds together. No measurements on this. This changes according to the humidity of your room, the temperature, what kind of flour you're using, all that kind of thing. I'll just do a little drizzle in there. And the less water, the better. You do want to start with really cold butter, really cold starter, really cold water. The colder your ingredients are, the more flaky your crust will be. A little bit more. And I'm just tossing this with a fork. It's literally tossing. It's not really stirring. I don't want to overwork this flour, so I'm going to do it just until it holds together when I squeeze like this. So that needs some more water. By the way, this is King Arthur all-purpose flour. Probably would be even better if I could use a pastry flour for this, but I need it so seldom. I just work with the all-purpose. Pastry has a little bit less gluten, so you're more likely to get a flaky result. Get that ice cube out. I think that's going to hold together properly. It should still feel kind of dry to the touch when you squeeze it. I am using a pastry mat, but you could just do this on the counter. I'm doing it because it'll be a little bit easier to clean up. I use this a lot more than I thought I would. So I'm going to flour the pastry mat or in the counter, if that's what you're using. And now I'm going to put my dough out here in a ball. And now I'm going to take my rolling pin and I'm going to roll it down. Now what I want to do is I want to get it a little bit bigger than the pie plate. And I like a kind of thick crust on my quiche. So I'm going to make this a little bit thicker than a lot of people probably would. The quiche cooks for quite a while, I think 40 minutes or so, so there's plenty of time for the pie crust to get done. But again, just use this for whatever your recipe, however your recipe tells you to use it. Kind of get it uniformly thick all the way across. That's pretty good. So I'll show you. That's the thickness of my dough. So it's a little bit thicker than probably a lot of people would do. If you like them real thin, you could probably make this work for 2 crusts, a double crust pie, I should say. I'm going to just fold that over. And now I'm going to get my water because that's going to act like glue. And I'm really unfancy about this. I just tear off the excess pieces. Anything that looks particularly hangy over. There we go. And then I start tucking, and I always tuck it under as I go. So first I'm just going to get it under there just to make sure that everything's pretty evenly thick all the way around. Kind of adjusting and pinching as I go. And now to pieces that are sparse like this, I take a little bit of the leftovers over here and kind of smash them together. And again, we want to handle this as little as possible. The less you handle your pie crust, the more tender it will be, the more flaky it will be. Get a little flour here and put it on there because it's kind of sticky. Trying to make sure it's not wrapped under. Need a little more here. Need some more water to act as glue. I just realized I did not turn my overhead light on. I hope you guys are seeing this okay. Now that I've got it pretty normal, pretty even all the way around there, I'm going to take my finger and I'm just going to go like this to make that fluted edge. So I'm just holding my fingers to the side and then push, and then I put my thumb in the groove from the last one and push all the way around. That's the way I make the pie crust. If you would like to see how I make my ham and basil quiche, I've been making this recipe forever, then just stick around. And now for the quiche. So the recipe calls for a cup of smoked or fully cooked ham diced. This is actually a little bit more. It's about 7 ounces. And you combine it with a cup of mozzarella or jack cheese. This is jack cheese. I had a little bit of a battle with the food processor and wound up doing some of it by hand. It was a mess. So it looks a little rough. This recipe is easily adaptable and you can change it to your taste. And this is just what I had on hand. This ham, by the way, comes from Seven Sons Farms. I order most of our meat from them. It's all fantastic. But because it's expensive, I wanted to use it up, and that's why we're doing this recipe tonight. I'm also going to make another change that uses the Seven Sons Farms bacon in just a minute. So I'm going to put a teaspoon of dried basil in there with this. I could have measured. At this point in my life, I'm pretty good at determining what a teaspoon looks like without actually having to use a measuring spoon, even though I had them over here and ready. I'm just going to mix those together. And I'm going to bring the bowl in that I used to mix the crust. Has a little bit of flour and also a little bit of cheese in there too, because I hand grated some of the cheese into it, but no big deal. It's all going into the same dish anyway. I'm going to whip these eggs up. And now I'm going to add in 3/4 cup of half and half. You could also use cream. And a dash of pepper. And now I'm going to take just some regular yellow mustard. I think I got this at Aldi's. And recipe calls for a tablespoon. I'm just squirting a little bit there in the bottom. And then I'm going to use the back of the same spoon that I used to stir the ham and the cheese to spread it around evenly here on the bottom. You could skip this step. I just like the way it tastes. And now over that, I'm going to put my ham and cheese mixture. Spread it around evenly. And over that, I am going to pour my egg mixture. Over top of this is not called for in the recipe, but I'm going to use it. I crumbled 5 slices of bacon from 7 Sons Farms because I was afraid if I waited any longer they would go bad, and I figured they would be tasty sprinkled over the top of this. And then I'm going to take 1 tablespoon of grated Parmesan cheese. I freshly grated mine, and I'm just going to sprinkle it over top. I have lowered my oven to 350 degrees. So now I'm going to put this in and bake it for 30 to 35 minutes or until it's set in the middle and slightly brown. So I'll see you with the finished product. Here is the finished quiche. I did let this rest for about 5 or so minutes after I took it out of the oven, because if you don't do that, it can kind of fall apart on the plate. I'm going to cut into it, although it is quite hot, and we're going to get a taste. While I'm cutting, I'll tell you that I will leave all of my affiliate links for everything I use for sourdough making, and also a pastry mat, not mine because mine isn't available on Amazon, down below. And I'm also leaving the affiliate link for 7 Sons Farms, where I got the meat for this. That is absolutely fabulous. We just love it, and you'll get a $10 credit if you use that, and I will get a credit too. And thank you so, so much if you do that. See if I can lift this out in one piece. The first piece is always the one most likely to fall apart. Hey, that did pretty well. Let me move this off to the side a bit. See how this tastes. I always love this quiche, but now I've got a little bit of bacon in there. Oh my gosh. That is so good. Let me get a little piece of the crust here. So there's our crust. You can see it's kind of flaking off. That's a sign of a good crust right there. And it comes off in little flaky pieces. Great flavor. Oh, I love that. And just a tiny bit of that sourdough tang from the discard, which works great with all recipes, but I think particularly with savory recipes like this. I want to thank you so much for watching this video. If you could do me a quick favor and hit the like button, that always helps my videos move ahead and helps more people find them. And at this point, I can kind of use all the help I can get. Oh, look, that's stuck. Here, let's try that. Oh, so good at talking with my mouth full. Also, if you would comment That would help me so very much. I love comments, but they also help the video move along in the all important but oh so confusing algorithm. And if you like different types of videos about sourdough, a lot of scoring, but I'm starting to venture off into other things, please do subscribe. Thank you so much for spending some of your time with me. Bye-bye, and be blessed.